Hey guys, welcome back. This is Project Life week 41, and this week I am using one of my, not one of the recent ones, but one of the older Citrus Twist mega kits that I put together. So if you haven't seen how I put these kits together, I will link the video up here in the description box for you. But basically this is a lot of months worth of leftover pieces from Citrus Twist, all stuck into one giant kit. And the issue that I have this week is the same as I have every time when I use these older mega kits, is they're a little bit too large, and the indecision kind of really gets me with these ones. So I start off here. I've pulled out a few 3x4 cards, and I noticed like a strong trend towards yellow in those cards. So I kind of thought, okay, well, maybe I'll go with yellow as I am looking through these things. But I realized very quickly that it's too much yellow. I'd much prefer some smaller pops of yellow, the same as are in my photos. So my top is yellow in the photo of me and Lil, and there's some yellow Life Crafted albums in my selfie down the bottom, and then some sunshine at the top. And so I kind of want to take a bit more of a lighter turn, I guess. So the 3x4 card I picked down the bottom is just a little text card. It kind of gives a bit more, it's more textural rather than literal. The text doesn't really read that well for the actual photo, but I liked the colors of it, so I'm going to go with that. I pulled out a kind of tealy blue 3x4 card there, and I liked how that added that extra color in there. I just didn't love the card that much, so I ended up going back through these 4x6s, and I picked out that green polka dot, which I liked better, and that's when I decided to just go the whole hog. I'm going to get rid of all the yellow, all the green, and just use a mix of colors, but a mix of kind of lighter colors. So I've got a very light 4x6 card for my title card. I've got that green polka dot, and I decided in the end I'm going to get rid of all the yellow, and I used a pink filler card on the left hand side there. So I finally have got the base down, and I think that's the thing with this particular mega kit, there is too much in it. So the last lot that I filmed for you guys, I made them slightly smaller, and that does make them easier to work with. If you're not someone who kind of suffers from indecision like I do, then a larger kit might work fine for you. But in this kit I found too many cards and too many stamps and too many embellishments, and so I think I'm going to go back into these kits and kind of split them down a little bit. Now I did decide to use this kind of blue card in the end, and I'm just using it as kind of a background pattern. I'm going to stamp a couple of stamps from this Grateful set here. So one I stamped in a Catherine Paula blue ink that is very similar to the card, but it is dark enough to see, and I added this right here on top. Now I used Pink Fresh Detail Black. This is a new ink to me. It was recommended by my lovely friend Alice, and so I picked it up and I'm giving it a go. I do love it on paper, but I have been experimenting a little bit, and it does not stamp nicely on my photo paper, which was a little bit shocking. I figured my photo paper takes any type of ink. I've never had any issues before. This is the first ink that hasn't stamped well on there, so that was a little bit of a surprise. I decided that from here I wanted to maybe work on my title card, because it is at this point the kind of blankest piece of this spread. Now it's a little bit different than normal because it already has a kind of sentiment on it, so I want to build on that. I also really want to use that hello stamp because it is one of my favorite stamps, and I've used it once. I know that I've used it one time, so I want to use it again today. In this particular kit, I've got that little plastic bag there full of labels, which makes it very handy for picking out a label. I decided to go with this kind of off-white and teal label just to tie in that text paper down the bottom, because that is not white. It is that kind of off-whitey cream kind of color. which is noticeable with the other cards that have white on them. So that just ties those two things together a little bit. I've stamped my dates on it. I'm going to leave that up there for now, and I'm just stamping the word hello. Now I will say that this ink does also stain your stamps. You can see there. Not quite as bad as, say, StazOn, but it definitely is a hybrid ink that does stain those stamps just a little bit. Now, I did not have a lot of alphas. It's the only thing that these kits don't have a lot of is the alphas with E's left over. So I'm using these very tiny little word stickers. I figure there's enough kind of large elements on this card going on. So I've just added my week 41 in very small teal letters underneath there and adhered my label. Now, while I was looking through all of those stamps, I loved this one here. There's says get it done, and there's a perfect little blank space on my photo. So like I said, I went back to my Memento Tuxedo black ink because I know that that stamps perfectly on my Canon Photo Glossy 2 paper. And then I had a little bit of a shuffle around of these 3x4 spots because I didn't love how everything was towards the bottom of the photos, and so I wasn't loving how that all kind of worked together, but you'll see I shuffle back and forth and end up back where I was originally anyway, so it just works out that they're all down the bottom. Sometimes that's how it goes. Now that sentiment that I'm adding to my 4x6 card at the top was actually part of a 3x4 card. I just trimmed off the actual journaling portion there and then adhered it directly onto my photo. The photo had a rather sort of large blank space on there, so I'm not covering up anything particularly important. And then I'm going to move on to my last 3x4 card. So delicious little platter here, and there's the perfect kind of foodie stamp set in here. I really loved the idea of that circle stamp. It's got a hole in the middle, and I went through the embellishments to see whether there was a chipboard that would fit. There was. The circle chipboards do fit in there perfectly. The chipboard says this and that, which isn't particularly food related, but I figured it worked with a platter because there was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, so it works for me. I'm going to stamp the stamp first, so I want to layer all these things. I'm going to stamp first, then add my photo, partially covering up some of that stamp, and then I'm going to add the chipboard on top so that it's sort of partially covering up the photo. And I like how that works, kind of pulls all of those three elements together. So my last card that I've got here to do is this 4x6 down the bottom. I didn't really know what I was going to do with this one. I sort of mistrimmed it when I printed this photo out, so it doesn't have a white border. And I want to kind of add a bit more color down here, so I'm just using the back of that 4x6 to give myself that white border before I add the blue border. You can see it just helps that stand out. That photo on top of the blue just didn't really pop enough, and so adding that double matte just helps to let the photo stand out but also add that color that I wanted in there. I did want to add some sort of embellishment on here. The background paper for that card isn't particularly sort of bright or colourful or stand outy, and so it gives me space to put something in here. And I figured at this point I've added so many words. Despite my lack of journaling this week, I have added a lot of words onto here with stamps and cards, and so I'm going to go the whole hog and add another word onto here. This is a little die cut embellishment that says this, and then there's room for a stamp. This stumped me a tiny little bit as I went through all of the stamp sets in here to try and find one that I thought suited both the photo and the space. So eventually I kind of settle on a two-lined stamp, so it doesn't actually fit the space, but it fits my photo, and I guess that's more important. So it doesn't actually fit into this little blank space here. It is going to overlap onto the actual printed portion of the word this, but it's still got, even though it's die cut, it still has paper behind where I'm stamping. So that is stamped fine. It says this perfectly imperfect, and I'm going to adhere that down. It's going to cover up the card and the photo and just tie all of that together. And I felt a little bit strange having that one heart puffy sticker there, so I'm going to add another one onto this card but you know I can't have two, so I'm going to add a third one on here. I'm going to do a bit of shuffling, then shuffle back again, back to how I originally had it in the first place. Add my last little heart on to my title card up here, and then call this week all done. Do you love stash kits? I love them so much, especially the older ones like this. It really does bring me so much joy pulling out all these old treasures. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.